Welcome to the Artist Check-In. I'm your host, Nick Zano. My day job is talking to artists for different publications, which means I know a lot of people whose livelihoods have been impacted by the quarantine associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. In this limited series, I'll be talking with comedians, musicians, sound engineers, authors, and creative people about how they're handling this personally and professionally. This week I speak with horror author and storyteller Gregory Bastianelli. Gregory released his winter-themed horror novel Snowball at the end of January. He had planned a full slate of appearances and conferences to promote the book, and all but a couple of these wound up being canceled because of a COVID-19 quarantine. That has left him without a direct line to fans, something that an independent author counts on to sell books. We'll talk about that, writing habits under quarantine, and the miserable New England winters that inspired him to write Snowball in the first place. Here's Gregory. You're an author. What else would you say you are?
Well, I mean, I like to think of myself as just a storyteller. I love to tell stories. I always have loved to tell stories. And whether I'm telling them to myself or to people who will enjoy them, either way, I'm going to tell a story. And I've been telling stories since I was 11 years old. When I started writing in elementary school and fell in love with writing and just loved to explore my imagination.
Mm-hmm. And you have a new book out called Snowball that came out in January. And you said that you have done a couple of authors' events, but then the pandemic sort of quashed whatever else you had planned to promote the book.
Yes. Timing was just not good for the year, I guess. The book came out January 30th, and I did two local bookstore events in New Hampshire, one in Exeter, one with a comic shop in Rochester, and both of them were very successful, great turnouts, and I thought this was the beginning to get the ball rolling to publicize my book. And then I had some other things lined up. Probably the biggest event I had lined up was going to StokerCon UK in April, which I had planned more than a year ago. And my publisher, Flame Tree Press, is from London, based in London. So they were going to have a very big presence at the StokerCon. And I had signed up to do a reading and a book signing there. And they were going to be promoting my book as well as all the other books Flame Tree has been releasing the past year. And that event, of course, got canceled when all travel restrictions went into place around the world. Mm-hmm. They have rescheduled StokerCon UK for early August, but at this point it's not an event I'm going to be able to attend, and there's still no certainty that it will take place, but I think my publisher still will plan to be there if it does take place. But other events, the publisher themselves had planned, of course, to have a big presence at the London Book Fair even before StokerCon, and that was canceled. In May, they were going to be at the New York Book Fair, which I was hoping to attend at their table. That's been postponed to July, and they're still not sure if they're going to be able to attend it. I'm hoping they will, because I thought maybe I could, make that event. But then several other bookstores had been interested in me coming in and doing book promotions at their stores, and all the bookstores closed. And that's just a handful of events. Some other things. Nikon, of course, the big convention in July, the Northeast Writers Camp. I had planned to attend that, and that has been canceled for the year as well. And I'm still holding out hopes that the Halloween Book Festival in October that Christopher Golden and some others put on will take place, but there's some doubts if that is going to happen. So we'll just have to wait and see. So it's been frustrating.
How big of an impact does that have on your ability to not only sell books but create fans for your work?
Well, I think it has a huge impact. just Flame Tree Public Press themselves not being able to attend these big events. I mean, the London Book Fair is probably one of the biggest events in Great Britain for publishers, and they would have had a chance to promote their books through vendors and people from all over the world. So that certainly would have a significant effect. And the same thing with the New York Book Expo. So it's I haven't seen what sales figures are yet for the book, but I'm sure that they've suffered by not being able to have that kind of a presence out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just the sales, but just being able to make fans. Is that the key way that you introduce yourself to people is through these events? Is that a key way people find your work?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Especially the conventions. Just meeting other writers and other fans and readers. It is a great way to network and just to get the word out there about the new book and spread all the news about it. And it's just unfortunate right now.
Well, NECON is especially disappointing because that's sort of a social event as much as it is an author's event, and that's how you make friends and sell books as well.
Oh, sure. That is there's such a camaraderie at NECON, and I've only attended one so far, and I hadn't been able to attend the last couple years, so I was really looking forward to be able to get back there this year, and especially with having a new book and being able to talk to some of the other writers and meet some new ones and just bond with everybody. And being a part of the New England Horror Writers Group, they do a lot of events that I usually try to participate in, and none of those have been able to take place either. So this whole bond of us authors that we're just kind of not being able to connect.
Yeah, that's more important, I think, than maybe some consumers realize, that personal connection with people.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Have you been able to do anything else? Any online promotion or any?
Yeah, I've been trying to do various promoting the book on all the social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I had just before the book came out, I had finally an author webpage created for me, and trying to do some promotions with that. And my publisher has been doing some promotion. They've been doing advanced reader copies giveaways. They've continued with giveaways even after the book came out. They did a blog tour, an online blog tour in Great Britain. Mm-hmm. And some other things. So they've been trying to publicize the book. Their marketing department's been great trying to publicize the book. And mm-hmm. I do whatever I can.
Have you learned anything that you can apply after quarantine conditions are lifted as far as promotion?
The big thing I learned, I've been trying to encourage people to because a lot of these independent bookstores have been really struggling as well. I've been trying to encourage people to shop online through independent bookstores, whether it be one in their own area or the ones that I promote in my area, and especially through the bookshop.org, which is a website that gives parts of its proceeds to independent bookstores. Mm-hmm. So I really try to encourage people to shop independent, keep these stores. I mean, I love going into my local independent bookstores, and I hate to see if some of them don't come back after this economic crisis. And so I'm trying to do my best to promote myself and the bookstores at the same time.
Have you heard from your local bookstores at all since this happened? Do you know what state they're in?
As far as I know, they're all the ones in my area are doing well. Obviously, they've suffered hits. Mm-hmm. They've tried to expand their presence with online orders, and I think they're all doing well at the moment, and most of them are looking forward to getting back up into full operation. But when they're when they're going to be able to have events again is another whole question.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to mention any of them particularly that are doing online sales so people can try to buy it from your hometown bookstore?
Yeah. Water Street Books in Exeter, New Hampshire. It's the one that actually had my first book event when the new book came out. And Jetpack Comics in Rochester, New Hampshire. That's the second event I was able to do. And both those bookstores still have signed copies actually of the book that I did for them. I signed a lot of advance copies for them so that even after the events, people could still get signed copies. And River Run Books in Portsmouth also has been putting out the word that the book is out, and people can order from them. So those are the three general ones in my area.
Will you reschedule the events once conditions change?
I hope so. I've talked to the John Beresford, the manager of Pandemonium Books in Cambridge, Mass., and I know he wanted to have me come in and do an event with a new book. So he's just waiting for the time to be right. And Free Thinkers Corner, another local bookshop in Dover, he's interested in having me come in and do something too. But just everybody's waiting for things to somehow get back to normal, and we can have gatherings again.
Will those be listed on your site whenever you do reschedule?
Oh yes, I try to promote everything on my website because since my website's new, I'm trying to do the best I can to promote it. It's GregoryBastianelli.com, and I try to do my best to promote it. So I have always all my events listed on there. I also have links on the website for people to purchase books, both through some of these local shops as well.
So let's talk about the actual book itself. I want you to describe the book because I'm worried about spoilers in it. You really do kind of throw the kitchen sink at the reader in this book. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes, I do. This book, the genesis of this book was just I wanted to write something about the complete misery of winter in New England. It's a lot New Englanders have suffered through for many, many years now in our lifetimes. So basically the story is about a group of travelers who get stuck. They become snowbound on a highway on Christmas Eve during a blizzard in New Hampshire. And as they kind of struggle to survive this ferocious storm, they come to the realization that there is something out there in the storm, an unnatural force that's even more threatening.
There's more than one unnatural force too. What can we say about that without revealing things you don't want to reveal about this? This is why it's hard to interview you about this book, because there are things. It's split into two halves, and the first half is sort of an isolation story, and the second half is where you introduce this whole new sort of world. And what's in that world, I don't necessarily want to give away unless you're okay with it. So I'm going to feel our way through this so we could give people a sense of what happens without giving too much away.
Yeah. Yes. And I always like to, fill my book with a lot of mystery and not let on too much of things that are going on. Let the reader discover that as they go along. But yes, all these travelers who are snowbound, they all have a backstory of miserable times they've had during winters, and some of their past do come back to haunt them a little bit, figuratively and literally. And there's also an underlying current that there's something that connects a good number of these people. There's something out there that it may not be a coincidence that they all ended up on this highway at the same time in this storm. And the second half of the book kind of goes into that a little more, where some of them start to find out why they're there and actually where they actually are. Yeah,
which is not necessarily a fixed place. There is an otherworldly realm involved. Again, I'm trying to be cautious about what I say about that. But there are, what could you say about the how, if you would characterize them as villains or the heavies in this story? Because there's a list of them. There's a bunch of them.
There is. Just I try to encompass a variety of winter nightmares, and all of these people have different things that have haunted them in the past, and some of these things turn up in this strange world that they find themselves in during this snowstorm.
Mm-hmm. And that there are, you do reference several different sort of traditional Christmas myths in this as well, and there's even a touch of Dickens when a certain character, a certain Jacob Marley-like character emerges. Was that on purpose? Was that a definitely a Christmas Carol reference?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. That was definitely a Christmas Carol reference. Yes, I tried to put a lot of different things that people would connect to when they think about winter and Christmas and that season.
So you're trying to bum people out about Christmas. That's the point. That's the point of the book.
Well, it's more about winter than Christmas, but a little of both.
There's a little bah humbug.
Yeah.
In there. So this was primarily influenced by growing up in New England, and did you never enjoy winter?
Oh yes.
In New England?
No, actually, as a kid, I did. I think as you get older and people kind of just get sick of the winter around here, especially when you get pelted with storm after storm, and it's when you're a kid, it's fun, but when you grow up, it starts to cease to be fun. When you're out there driving in it, you're driving to work in it, or you're driving home from work in it, and and you're out there shoveling your driveway or snowballing your driveway, and you get stuck somewhere, or it's just it wears you down. The winters wear you down. Mm-hmm. That's why so many New Englanders now go to Florida in the winter and avoid the winter. Stephen King goes to Florida now in the winter. He doesn't stay up here anymore.
How do you have a particular interest in myths surrounding Christmas and holiday time, winter holidays?
Well, I love the myth of Krampus, of course, and I actually only stumbled on that just a few years before I wrote this novel, and just fell in love with that whole image of this winter legend that comes around and scoops up all the naughty kids, and Santa takes care of the good ones, and Krampus takes care of the bad ones. Yeah, that's just a great myth, and you see it celebrated in Europe a lot, in the countries where that myth grew out of.
Yeah, Santa's coal in the stocking just doesn't. It's not enough for some kids.
No.
You need something a little extra.
Stuff them in the wicker basket.
Yes, the giant goat beast with the what's the little thrasher? The
birch switch.
The birch switch. Yes. Would you revisit this realm at any point? You've set it up so that it's a place you could return to, possibly.
Yes, and I've actually had several people who've read the book say, hey, is this story going to continue? I certainly had no intention of revisiting this world, but, you never say never, so who knows? Mm-hmm. But I've got a lot of other fires in the iron, so we'll see. For now, yeah. I'm happy with how the story came out. I'm happy with how it resolved, and though some people may not be.
You could return in short story form as well, and that wouldn't necessarily have to be a full-length book, because you can break things apart with all of the characters you introduce in here. Some of them a little more comical, some of them a little more serious. So Did you mean to have sort of a sense of humor about some of these villains as well? Is that?
Yes, definitely. I didn't want to make the reader feel too miserable. I wanted to have some light moments, and certainly I hope I achieved that a little bit, not too much, because I still wanted to be a good horror story.
Uh-huh. And what are the other irons you have in the fire? What do you have coming up?
I actually just yesterday sent a couple of new manuscripts to my editor at Flame Tree Press. So he's going to be looking over a couple of manuscripts and deciding what will be the next book that hopefully will be released by Flame Tree.
Oh, a couple of manuscripts. That's. Do you write quickly? Are you a very prolific writer?
I find myself lately being able to write quicker than the first couple of books. But couple of these manuscripts have been kicking around for a couple of years, and they just weren't quite where I wanted them to be. And another is a spanking brand new one. So I just kind of wasn't sure which one to present to my editor, and he said, send them all, and we'll sort them out. So I have no idea what they'll like for next, but I'm anxious to hear back.
Have the quarantine conditions affected your writing at all, or is it just do you write pretty much in isolation anyway, which means none of the rest of this would matter? Or does it impact your daily schedule in some way or another?
It's given me more time to write because I'm not at work now, and I'm not a work at home person. I don't telework, so I've been at home for a couple of months now since I think my office closed the very first Monday of April, and I still have not heard when I'll be going back to work, so I'm just taking the time to do stuff around the house and then spend as much time writing as I can. So I've been enjoying the writing time, the extra writing time.
Is it tempting to write about what's happening now, or is it something? I asked this question, I think, on the New England Horror Writers Board. It's an interesting question. Is this too serious to write about, or is it too serious to ignore?
I don't think it's too serious to write about, and I have a feeling we might be seeing quite a few things that come out of this. It's funny you say that because I actually had sort of an idea for a short story that I was mulling over the past few weeks related to this type of a situation. And I kind of been mulling it over, and actually I got up last night at 2 a.m. and started jotting down some notes because I couldn't sleep because it was just stuck in my head running around, and I decided, maybe it might be even more than a short story. I don't know, but actually anxious to start working on it.
Because there are some particular stories that you hear in this that are terrifying. What hospital workers in hotspots are going through, what anybody trapped on a cruise ship that was being refused port was going through, and the things I was thinking of about those stories are, would they be exploitive to write about? Or are you getting to something that's very real, which is what you should be doing anyway?
I don't think it would be exploitive as long as it was handled in the right way. Mm-hmm. There are certainly, yes, a lot of horrifying stories that have come out of this. I've been paying attention because I have my family origins are from Italy, and I have relatives there. And, of course, Italy was hot hit right in the beginning, right after China. Right. And I've read some horrendous stories out of Italy that just really terrify you. But I think if things were done the right way, I don't think it would be exploiting current situation.
Mm-hmm. So how can people help you out right now? If people want to help you out as an author, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, buy the book and
Mm-hmm.
preferably buy it through an independent bookstore. These bookstores, just before this pandemic started, independent bookstores were having a resurgence, and it was great to read these stories about the rise of independent bookstores and the success that they were having. And then this all had to happen. So I would encourage people to contact their independent bookstore in their area. Almost every town has one somewhere nearby, and even if they don't have the book, sometimes people don't realize that an independent bookstore can pretty much get any book that's published. That's in print. All they have to do is order it, and usually within a few days they get it. So it doesn't matter if it's a small, tiny little shop that doesn't have much on the shelves. Tell them what you want; they'll get it for you. They're more than happy to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way. And I always encourage people to, when they read a book they like, to write reviews about it. Go on Goodreads.com and write reviews. Actually, my new book, Snowball, already has, I think the last count was almost 150 reviews on Goodreads. That's great. It's a great way for people to hear about the book and hear what people like about the book.
And so, what are
the book? Review the book.
What are the links to your what's your website and what's your social media presence? Where can people go to find out more about you?
All right. My website is gregorybastianelli.com, and my Twitter handle is @GregoryBastianelli. It wasn't long enough to get the rest of my name in. I wish I knew that different handle, but it's up to the E in Bastianelli. And I'm just on Facebook, just under my name.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for doing this today. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I enjoyed it.